Love is not a feeling. The interview. Barry Long was interviewed about Love is Not a Feeling by Hal Blacker, editor of What is Enlightenment magazine. This interview was published alongside the article in What is Enlightenment Volume 4, Number 2, Summer 1995. Hal Blacker, in your article you make a distinction between feeling and sensation. But it seems to me that sensations are as ephemeral and time-bound as feelings. What's the relevance of sensations to enlightenment, which is beyond time and beyond change? Barry Long, I have no feelings at this moment and I don't have feelings. But if I want to I can feel a sensation in my body within, which is the pure sensation of my sensory existence, which is the beginning of time. That sensation never changes, it's always there. But as I detach myself from existence, that is from my feelings, from the necessity to think or feel, that sensation disappears. It's not necessary. It only appears when I want it or when somebody mentions it. Otherwise I have no sensation and no feelings and I exist in knowledge. You can't be enlightened unless you've got sensation, pure sensation. I'm choosing the word pure sensation because pure sensation doesn't have any feeling in it. I don't like to use the word experience because experience isn't direct. Pure sensation is direct being and that's the basis of your and everybody's sensory existence. Now enlightenment is the other side of that. Where sensation itself even disappears because it's not necessary, there is enlightenment. It's the other side of pure sensation. Hal Blacker, what is the connection between love and enlightenment? Barry Long, love is the state of enlightenment and enlightenment is the state of love. You can't make any separation between them. Enlightenment is the state of no feelings and pure knowledge and so is love. And both are impersonal. Now to be personal is to have feelings, feelings about this, feelings about your mother, feelings about your father. Oh, everybody lives off their feelings all day, as you know I say in the article, but that's personal. The personal is what changes every couple of seconds, although we don't know it. So that's your feelings. Now the impersonal state of love is something that very few people on this earth know anything about. And to bring that impersonal love into existence, which is where you and I are speaking now, that is even rarer than the realization of God. Now I'm going to tell you what everybody's problem is. It is love of woman in the case of a man, and the love of man in the case of a woman. All your problems come down to love. Your love life is what your problem is, and everybody else's on earth. God in existence is man and woman. There's nothing else. And unless you have loved God in existence, your duality which is woman or man, unless you have united with that through love and devotion without going through your feelings of love, you're not going to be enlightened. The love of man and woman is the beginning of the love of God. You can realize God within like many men have done. It's one of the rarest things on earth to realize God, but everybody seems to think that that's the end. Where I come from, realizing God was the easy part of it. That God of love which is already here anyway, who wouldn't be able to realize it? The difficult part is to bring that God into this world where God or love is not, into that body listening to these words and this body speaking them. That's the task. Hal Blacker, you write that all feelings are false and deceptive. It seems though that having feelings is part of being human. Isn't it possible to have true and appropriate emotional responses such as anger at injustice and hypocrisy? Barry Long, oh, no, no, no. That is a justification of your feelings, your negativity, and your unenlightenment, and that's what everybody on earth does. They don't want to bite the bullet. Nobody wants to be utterly and completely honest and natural. So when you justify feelings, tell me, what feelings are genuine? Now for instance, do you want anger? For God's sake, I don't want it, thanks very much. And I'm sure the people I live with don't want it. So what's the good of it? It's purely selfish to be angry because it satisfies me, myself, instead of being universal. Hal Blacker, but it seems that if you are human you're going to have an emotional response to the complex and sometimes terrible situations that do arise in life. Very long. Now wait a minute. In the article I say that feelings are the interpretation of events. What you're describing, these terrible things that happen in life, they are life, and terrible things happen in life. For instance, I might lose an arm today. That would be, let's say, a terrible thing. But it wouldn't be a terrible thing to me. It would be that I would lose my arm and possibly suffer physical pain. That would not be a terrible thing to me. If it were terrible, that would be a selfish and feeling interpretation of an event. The fact that it hurts is not terrible, that's life, and the fact that it happened is not terrible, it's life. Hal Blacker, well, it's life, but I don't know that life necessarily excludes making those kinds of judgments. The way that you're describing it seems to exclude a large area of human existence. Very long, because humanity is not enlightened. Do you know what humanity is, what the word human means? The word human, where I come from, which is the enlightened state, means suffering. So when you say you're a human being, you're saying you're a suffering being. And I say you have to get rid of your suffering and then be being. Enlightenment is the state of being which I am, this moment and every moment. So I'm not suffering. But humanity loves to suffer. People love to suffer because they love to get excited with their feelings. All you've got to do is get rid of your feelings, which are always negative. Why not get rid of the whole lot of it, now? That means you don't know feelings, and then you don't know negativity, and then you'd be in love, and then you would love everybody by not loving anybody in particular as a feeling. That's the state of enlightenment. People want to get rid of this feeling, they want to get rid of their jealousy, they want to get rid of their anger, but what you've got to get rid of is the whole lot. Hal Blacker, you seem to be very much against Eastern traditions. Aren't there some teachings in those traditions that can be helpful, but the problem is that often those teachings are not really being lived? Very long, that is so. You will find that nobody is living those teachings now because the master who wrote them was not enlightened, or the priests that copied them out were not enlightened, and the original master is dead. Now only while a master is here can you realize what the master says. You can't realize it in the written word. You can get help from that and you can realize little bits here and there, but the idea is to be with the master like you are with the master now. He's speaking to you and this is direct communication. All Eastern teachings are partial. The teachers themselves don't live them because most of their audience is in the West, and the West is a totally different place than the East. If you try to live an Eastern teaching and be in the West, you're not facing the immediate difficulty. The immediate difficulty is the Western mind that believes so many concepts and writes so many dictionaries and invents so many things. You are a Westerner, and that's where God is found, in your culture. Not in trying to find some other culture to solve it for you. I am master of the West. No one is as straight as I am because I do not have any Eastern beliefs. I do not look through any sort of film. I see things precisely as they are. The West puts nuts and bolts together and sends spaceships to the moon. I do the same thing in connection with God. I am very, very practical, and I have no Eastern thought in me. Hal Blacker, do you feel that all traditional religious teachings have to be rejected? Very long, yes, yes, yes. Because tradition means past, and traditions is old, and that's yesterday. And there is no truth in yesterday whatsoever. Like there's no truth in the Bible because it doesn't free you. It doesn't make you a total being. So if you follow a tradition, you're following something that's old. Why not be now? Hal Blacker, you say in your article that you discourage people from even mentioning enlightenment on the grounds that doing so puts people further from the state, because it implies a separation of time or distance from this natural condition. On the other hand, you teach enlightenment and are very outspoken about being a master of enlightenment. It seems that a strong motivation towards enlightenment is important because of how much has to be given up and how much is demanded for there to be real transformation. Isn't it important to talk about enlightenment in order to encourage people to actually strive to attain it? Very long. No, you must not strive for anything. It is your striving that's caused you to be unenlightened, to forget what enlightenment was. Give up your negative feelings, and that's all feelings, and then you will stop thinking. You'll have the first amazing experience of the mind stopping, of no thought. Feelings continue and then you have to give those up. That's all you've got to give up, nothing else. Just don't be unhappy, now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. What have you got to be unhappy about? There's nothing for you to be unhappy about. You're interpreting events through your feelings, your personal self. There's no need to interpret. The problem is that you have feelings of negativity, of failure, of jealousy, of guilt. These are your problems. All you've got to do, and I will tell you how to do it, is to get rid of those, and then you'll say, "Hallelujah, I'm free." And you won't even have to mention enlightenment. Hal Blacker, in your article you seem to advise people to stop thinking, just as you advise people to stop feeling. Again, it doesn't seem to me that thought and feeling are necessarily the problem. What is important is one's relationship to them. Are they obscuring objectivity? Are they obscuring your ability to see what's real and respond to it, or not? Very long, every thought you have is an obscuration of reality because thoughts are always partial. You have to know nothing. I know nothing, and in knowing nothing I know everything I need to know. You can ask me a question and I will be able to answer it. We are talking about a thing called enlightenment. Enlightenment is not gained and regained without enormous giving up of everything. You can't hold on to anything. Now that doesn't mean giving up your wealth, giving up your car. Giving up all those things are conceptual ways of sacrifice. The greatest sacrifice of all is to give up your feelings, which are the powerhouse of your thought process. So when you get rid of your feelings, no more thought. You've got to give up what counts, but people give up what doesn't count, their cars, their money. They shave their heads, they do something else, but that's not what it's about. It's about the supreme sacrifice, which is to sacrifice my humanness, my suffering, which are my feelings. And that leads to the giving up of my thoughts. It's as simple as that, because all I have is my feelings. That's my only corruption, my only unenlightenment. Hal Blacker, without thinking and feeling, how does one function when it comes to acting in the world, which inevitably involves making judgments and decisions and choosing between this and that? How do you function? Very long. Well, I don't make decisions. Somebody says to me, would it be okay to go to England? And I say, what are the dates and how does that fit in with everything? How's my health? Well, I'm all right, I think I can stand that sort of thing. So they put things to me and I can or I can't. In other words, I always go for the biggest yes. I don't make decisions. Really, you don't need to make decisions. It's a conceptual thing, and the more enlightened you are, the less decisions there are. That's why I say you do as you do. You don't have alternatives and you don't have choices to make, because that's the state. I like to suggest that people don't use the word decision because that introduces a selfish aspect, the idea that you are controlling your life. I decided. You know, it is a very staccato, sharp-angled, suffering thing. Better to just look at the situation and do what you do. Now when you do what you do, it gets rid of the chooser, the winner, and the loser. You'd be surprised how all day, most of the time, you're not making any decisions and you're doing all sorts of things. It's only a mental concept. It's selfish to think that you're making decisions. If you want a better word, where I come from, this is how everybody runs their life anyway, you go for the biggest yes. There's no certainty in life, so you look at a situation and there's 6 points for, and there's 8 points against, and so you say, well, I'll go for the biggest yes, which in this case is no, so no, I don't think that's a good idea. You just want to get rid of these big decision makings. It's too harsh, it's willful. Hal Blacker, you write, enlightenment is to be emptied, not empty, of feelings and thus at one with the purest sensation of divine being. What's the distinction here between being emptied and being empty of feelings? Very long, yes. Well, I noticed that in your last issue's interviews with those Eastern teachers from Light to Light, January 1995, emptiness was mentioned a lot. I find that a wrong word. Because in God realization and being one with God the Most High, the Unspeakable One, there's no sense whatsoever of ever having done anything yourself. It is all done for you. It's by grace. And so it's not being empty, it's being emptied. There's a different emphasis or a different connotation to that. Nobody, it doesn't matter who he is ever going to be the Most High. He might think he is and start calling himself Bhagwan or the Bright and all that bullshit, but it's not true. It is by grace that I live, it is by grace that I am speaking now, it is by grace and grace alone. And that grace empties the vehicle of what it needs to be emptied of. And then there is the state of enlightenment, or wonder, which has no knowing in it. So the void that the Buddha is supposed to have spoken of, and which I am in and which I am, is not empty. It is pregnant. It is utterly potent, but it's nothing.